WION Speed News. Dozens of demonstrators block roads in the southern Iraqi city of Basra early on Thursday to protest against the choice of the country's new prime ministerial candidate. Asad al-Diadani, an Iranian-backed bloc in Iraq's parliament, proposed the governor of oil-rich southern Basra province as the country's next prime minister. Al-Diadani was put forward for premier by the Fatah bloc, which includes leaders associated with the paramilitary Popular Mobilization Unit supported by Iran. Hours after his nomination, protesters poured into the streets of several southern cities, including Basra and the holy Shiite cities of Karbala and Najaf. Hong Kong protesters gathered at shopping centres across semi-autonomous territory for a third consecutive day of Christmas demonstrations. Masked demonstrators filled Sims Shah Sui Harbour City on Thursday, prompting some stores inside the mall to close their doors. Riot police detained a number of people and questioned several others over the protest. A man was also seen being escorted by officers out of the mall and into a police vehicle. Hong Kong's demonstration erupted in June over proposed extradition legislation and then mushroomed into a sustained anti-government movement pushing for full democracy, and other demands have burned through police manpower. British authorities rescued almost 50 suspected migrants on the country's southeast coast. 3 borders force boats docking at Dover early on Boxing Day. The video showed 6 people on board, 1 vessel arriving at the port around 6:20 GMT, and 2 other vessels, each with 9 people on board, docking later in the morning. In a statement, the Home Office confirmed that 49 people had been rescued after Border Force and Coast Guard officials intercepted 4 small boats in waters of Kent. It is said that those on board presented themselves as Iranian, Iraqi and Afghan, and they would be medically assessed and transferred to immigration officials for interview. Relatives of 43 students who went missing in southern Mexico in 2014 and their supporters marched to a Mexico City church on Thursday to attend Mass and call for the safe return of their loved ones. Holding banners with photos of the missing students, the marchers made their way to the Basilica of the Virgin of Guadalupe, where Bishop Salvador Rangel Mendoza of Chilpancingo led the prayers. The group went missing in September 2014 when students from a teachers' college were detained by local police in the southern state of Guerrero. Investigators say police handed the students over to members of a local gang who purportedly killed and burned them. As the cold wave tightens its grip in northern India, a thick layer of fog engulfed most of the cities, leaving passengers waiting for hours as their journeys were delayed. The situation in Kanpur city of India's most populous state, UP, was not very different as the city was under the influence of thick layer of fog. Locals were seen wearing layers of woolens and warming up themselves near fires on roadsides to brave the chilly weather. While winter temperatures in South Asia are mild compared to Europe, they can at times prove deadly in India, where thousands of homeless live in shacks without any heating arrangements. Seven people died and 64 were rescued when a boat carrying migrants from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan sank in eastern Turkey's Lake Van. Lake is near the border with Iran, from where migrants regularly cross into Turkey. Heading west towards Europe, it was not clear why the migrants were on the boat in Lake Van, which is completely within Turkey's borders. 5 people were found dead at the scene and 2 died at hospital, while 64 people were taken to nearby hospitals and shelters. Thousands of sky watchers gathered across parts of the Middle East and Asia to glimpse the sun forming a ring of fire around the moon in a rare annual solar eclipse. However, social media users in Malaysia and Indonesia took this opportunity to see if an egg could balance out on its narrow side with the help of the eclipse Videos shared online showed success in the experiment in getting the egg to balance on different grounds, including window, pane and a plate and road on the roads as well. Tibetan Buddhists in exile organized prayers for world peace and to usher good luck for the coming year and dispel the evils of the previous year in northern Shimla city. Hundreds of Buddhist monks gathered at the monastery and performed rituals and offered prayers with full devotion to drive away all the obstacles and welcome the Tibetan New Year. The festival is called Gutor, which the monks perform traditional Tibetan dance, light fire and throw objects in the fire, which signifies riddance from bad omen. Up to 100,000 Tibetan Buddhists live in exile in India, 60 years after the spiritual leader took refuge there after failing uprising against the Chinese rule. Public transport workers on strike for 22 days gathered and marched in Paris as they continue to ask the French government to drop a pension reform plan, and they say they will impact the future pensioners' livelihood. Over 2 weeks of nationwide industrial action against French President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform, which would scrap special pension for many public sector staff and make people work to 64 to draw a full pension. Have crippled France's transport network. Former investment banker Macron has said he wants to streamline the state pension system with its tangle of special privileges and use incentives to prod people to work until 64 instead of the average retirement age of now of 62. A candlelight vigil was held in the Thai fishing village of Ban Nam Kem in memory of those killed in deadly tsunami 15 years ago. More than 230,000 people along the coast of countries on the Indian Ocean died in the morning after Christmas Day 2004 when a 9.1 magnitude quake off northern Sumatra Island triggered a tsunami with waves as high as 17.4 meters. At least 1,400 people were killed when waves struck Ban Nam Kem. In Thailand, where more than 5,300 people were killed, including tourists visiting resort islands in the Andaman Sea, officials held a memorial ceremony and called for more awareness and preparedness for disasters. Breathtaking sea of clouds and mist formed at several mountains in southwest China's Yunnan province, attracting visitors with enthralling scenery. The spectacular views appeared in Malipo County at Aileo Mountain and Yushi City and Jingmai Mountain as well. Viewed from the top of the mountains, a sea of white cloud was extending to the skyline afar with layer upon layer of peaks as if floating in the cloud sea, sometimes thick, sometimes light, sometimes coming near and sometimes going afar, which made the visitors, in fact, enthralled with the scenery. More than 200 runners joined the 21st annual Roast Goose Digestion Run in Berlin, aiming to burn those Christmas calories. Roast goose, which is not light on calories, is a traditional Christmas food in Germany, served with red cabbage, kale and potato dumplings. Santa Claus leading with a mock goose. Participants ran for 10 kilometers until they arrived in a small cabin where they were rewarded with, more calories from mulled wine and pastries. But they get the chance to burn these off during their run back to the starting point, which is 5 kilometers away. Syrians displaced from the Maret al-Numan town are struggling to stay warm and dry as they attempt to stop rain from entering their newly built makeshift camps in the Idlib countryside. close to the border with Turkey. Conditions in the Sarmada camp have worsened as non-stop rain has drowned the tents with water. UN estimates that some 60,000 people have fled from the area heading south after government forces intensified their attacks on Idlib earlier this month. Thousands more have fled further north toward the Turkish border in recent days, where the UN has warned of the growing risk of humanitarian catastrophe. Dozens of Iranian opposition protesters gathered at the Trocadero Square in Paris against the recent crackdown by Tehran on protests in the country. Days of protests across Iran last month, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei appeared impatient, gathering his top security and government officials together as he issued an order, do whatever it takes to stop them. That order, confirmed by 3 sources close to the Supreme Leader's inner circle, and a 4th official set in motion the bloodiest, in fact, crackdown on protesters since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. About 1,500 people were killed during less than 2 weeks of unrest that started on November 15th. A toll report provided by 3 Iranian Interior Ministry officials included at least 17 teenagers and about 400 women, as well as some members of the security forces and police. Palestinians in Gaza will scale back protests along the fortified border with the Israeli factions in the Strip for nearly 20 months. Palestinians have held weekly demonstrations dubbed the Great March of Return, which has often turned violent as people throw rocks and fire bombs at Israeli troops who respond by shooting with live fire. Gaza medical officials say 214 Palestinians have been killed since the Friday protest began in March 2018. In that period, an Israeli soldier was shot dead by a Palestinian sniper on the border during the demonstration. However, the protests have tapered off in recent months. Analysts attribute the decline to diplomatic efforts by Egypt, Qatar and the UN to fend off a wider escalation between Israel and Hamas. An avalanche swept across a marked ski trail near the Swiss town on Thursday, injuring 2 people. 4 others either were rescued or extricated themselves from the snow unhurt. Police and rescuers searched the snow slide after witnesses said more people might be buried. The avalanche occurred mid-morning while many holiday skiers enjoyed mountain sunshine the day after Christmas. A police spokesman said it was an avalanche of considerable size. Heavy snow in recent days have raised the avalanche danger to level 3, which means significant danger. 2 casualties were flown to hospital by the Alpine Rescue Service. And large crowds across southern Asia gazed at the sky in marvel on Thursday as a ring of fire solar eclipse unfolded. Indonesia's Riau province, people watched the phenomenon with modified binoculars and glasses, and others prayed during the so-called annual eclipse. The eclipse caused the sun to transform into a dark orb for more than 2 minutes, briefly plunging the sky into darkness. It could be seen along a path stretching from India and Pakistan to Thailand and Indonesia. Previous annual solar eclipse in February 2017 was also visible over a slice of Indonesia. Mexican archaeologists have discovered a new Mayan palace in the archaeology area of Colobo in southeast of Mexico. The palace, in fact, located inside the pre-Hispanic Mayan city, is 50 meters in length and is 6 meters high. Construction materials indicate that there were 2 phases of occupation, one in the late Classic period and another in the Terminal Classic. Together with this palace, experts had explored 4 other structures in the square, including an altar, 2 vestiges of spaces for residential use, and an oven. The powerful Mayan Empire reached its peak between 250 CE and 950 CE. It extended its reach into what is called Guatemala, Honduras and western El Salvador. Bargain hunters braved the rain and chilly temperatures in London on Thursday, waiting for shops to open into the Boxing Day sales outside the famous Selfridges department store in London's central Oxford Street. Early bird shoppers waited patiently for the doors to open at 9 a.m. while other retailers have been offering discounts for months. Household names such as Selfridges and in fact John Lewis and Harrods tend to hold back until Boxing Day, creating events that can still draw big crowds.